Yes, here we are, Conspiracy Couch, episode number 8 on the Inner Earth with our special guest, Brooks Agnew. I am your host, Alara of Sirius, here with my co-host, the amazing, wicked, smart, loyal to the foil.
What up, peeps?
What's going on? How's everybody in the chat doing tonight? Can I get a 5x5 if we are up on all platforms and audio and everything is good to go? Yeah, so allow me to welcome Brooks Agnew to the show.
Hey, good to be here. Sorry, that was the welcome, right?
Yeah, that was
welcome,
the,
sir.
yeah, that was the big welcome.
That was the cue. That was.
I love your lighting. How did you just change it on the fly like that? That was cool.
Well, I have multiple cameras, so I just changed.
Look at that super slick setup there.
Look at that.
Right.
Thank you for the 5x5s in the chat. It's good to see you guys. Hi, US Anon, Divine Fractal, Claudette, Paula, Suitor Bug, Agent Kofefe, nice. Yovanda, Alfredo. Yeah, so tonight is going to be fun. We have the resident expert on Inner Earth here with us to talk about Inner Earth and other strange things, right?
Right.
Yep.
Yeah.
The stranger, the better.
So
that's what I always say.
I was on Brooks' show not too long ago. I had some green screen issues. But yeah, I was on Brooks' show a couple of weeks ago, and it was a lot of fun hanging out with him. He's very knowledgeable on a lot of topics, and I thought he has got to come on the Conspiracy Couch and educate the rest of us. So yeah.
What up to the Foxhole fam? What up to the D Live peeps?
Let me go pull up Foxhole over here so we can see them too while we're doing this. So Brooks, if you could maybe start by going into a little bit about like what you do and how you got into what you do and what made you an expert on the Inner Earth when you started studying that topic, that would be wonderful.
Wow. Well, first the Earth cooled.
Right.
I'm an engineer, and I went back to college.
An engineer.
An engineer. Okay.
He's got super skills.
And I went back to college to get more science behind me. So I got a degree in chemistry and then later got a degree in physics. So I was lecturing and a woman approached me in 2001, was actually right after 9/11. And she wanted to write a book about the creation of the earth. And I said, that's nice. And then she said, well, I want you to look at this image and tell me what you see. So she handed it to me and I said, kind of looks like a particle accelerator. She said, I thought so too. It's from a Babylonian scroll, 5,000 years old. I said, okay, you have my attention. Well, in 2004, we finished volume 1 of the Ark of Millions of Years, which is what Noah called his ark. Now, it's a nonfiction book. It covers 44 ancient cultures and what they thought about man's relationship with Earth.
Yeah.
Why it was here, why man was here, what the history taught us or taught them about the relationship of mankind with the Earth. And in doing the research, somebody handed me a book called Our Hollow Earth or something like that. It was a long time ago. And I read it. And I said, well, that's very amusing. And I put it on the shelf and didn't look at it again. Yeah. But as a scientist is wont to do, we are fascinated by data. We're fascinated by trivia. And so over time, what happened is I started collecting more and more information about questions. We're all about questions when it comes to science, about the structure of our planet. And we all thought we knew the way it was made. We float through space on a molten ball, and we live on tectonic plates like cornflakes floating in a bowl of milk, and everybody knows that's the way the Earth is made. But we started putting deeper satellites out into space, and some of these were weather satellites, taking images of the Earth from 12,500 miles out in space. And one of the images came back with auroras, which is the northern lights or the southern lights, the aurora borealis or aurora australis. Mm-hmm. And there were auroras over both poles at the same time. Well, my old friends at JPL, I did a co-op at JPL when I was in high school. I was in college at 13, so I kind of was not a kid. But everybody was throwing their hands up saying, what the heck is going on here? So they put together a experiment called the Themis probe, which was a capsule with 5 satellites in it. They're going to launch them out into space, and they hurried this thing up. It was on the rush.
I bet they did.
They launched it out into space. It assumed 5 different orbits from low to high. And of course, they're going around the Earth at different times, and they line all up. They turn the satellites on and begin measuring. And what they're looking for is a source of energy that's coming into our atmosphere that's causing the aurora to occur, causing the ions in the upper atmosphere to fluoresce, which is what we see as the northern lights. Well, what happened is between satellites 3 and 4, there was this sudden interdimensional explosion. They called it a cosmic bullet. And when it blew up, of course, the blast went in every direction. So it passed satellites 4 and 5 and went out into space. But it passed satellites 3, 2, and 1. And when it struck, it lit up the atmosphere. So they said, aha, that's it. That's the source of the aurora. And that was the end of the experiment. And I read the paper twice. And I called my friends at JPL, some of whom are still there. I said, what gives? One measurement does not a theory make. You know, what are you doing? Well, they didn't line up again, and now the satellites are dead. They ran out of batteries. The point is that they ran the experiment. They had questions. So I said, well, what else is out there? Turns out at Washington University, Dr. Y. Sessions decided that he was going to go over 600,000 seismograms. These are reports that are made by seismometers. These are accelerometers that are placed around the planet. And what they do is they measure vibrations and record them from earthquakes. Now, we realize we have a big quake like a 6 or a 6.5 or a 7, like in, let's say, Malaysia or in Japan, somewhere on the Pacific Rim. The vibrations go all the way through the planet, and they come out on the other side. And what happened is they began putting these seismograms together in time base, and they needed to analyze them. So they got a big computer and a bunch of grad students, which I've been a grad student. You work basically for food. And they crunched 600,000 of these seismograms, and they came up with a sort of CAT scan of the planet. They looked inside the planet using those vibrations. And they discovered 2 things that rocked the planetary core geology world. One is they discovered an ocean underneath the Atlantic Ocean, inside the crust, that was the size of the Arctic Sea. That's a big body of water. They could hear, or they could detect, the waves crashing on the shore 900 miles inside the planet. Yes, regular waves. The second thing that they discovered is a phenomenon that we call pressure waves and shear waves, or the way vibrations go through the planet. They either go straight through the planet or they go around the planet. And unfortunately, some waves were showing up and they didn't know where they came from. So they called it the shadow zone. I swear that's what it's called in the textbook, the shadow zone. So they managed to map the inside of the planet from the listening point back to the point of origin. And this is the image that they came up with, that the crust was about 900 miles thick. And then we don't know. And then there's a core. Well, there was another analyst who decided to analyze the data going the other way, going from the source out to the geophones, the other way. And what he came up with was a very clear image of about a 900 mile to 1,000 mile thick crust, an open space, and nothing, because there's no connection to the core at all. And when he did that, all the shadow zones went away. All the math worked out. So now I'm going, okay, this is about 2006. And I'm going, okay, that's enough sand in the balance now that it's beginning to tilt toward, we don't know.
Right.
We don't know if we live in a molten ball or if we live in a hollow sphere. And I went, wait a minute, didn't I read a book about that? So I dug out the book again and I read it again and I go, you know what? There might be something here.
Right.
And then more experiments, more grant money, more governments, Britain, India, the United States, and Japan. Some of these measurements are in my field of spectrographic analysis.
Yeah.
So they're analyzing vibrations that are coming through the core of the Earth or through the crust of the Earth when it's quiet, when there's no earthquakes, there's no volcanoes, and they're just listening. They're listening for a baseline. And you'll laugh when I tell you exactly when they were able to draw the baseline. But what happened was they detected a spike, a frequency that aligns with a peculiar form of iron. Not like iron metal, not iron oxide, iron crystal. But the only way iron crystal can exist in crystalline form is if it matrices with another molecule. It likes xenon. It likes to matrix with xenon. Well, as it turns out, those of us that are into chemistry, we realize the law of partial pressures began to apply here. If I don't have one on me, but if I took a Pepsi bottle, we don't take Coke around here. If we had a Pepsi bottle and
I'm horrified, but go ahead.
No, we don't do Coca-Cola around here. There between the liquid of the Pepsi and the cap is an airspace. We call this the headspace. We can take a needle and we can take a sample of that headspace and we can shoot it into what's called a mass gas chromatograph, a mass spec. And we can tell, based on the law of partial pressures, what chemistry is in the liquid, because the law says that there will be the exact proportion in gas form in that headspace. And we do the same thing on Earth. We measure the ocean. We can tell the gases that are in the water, and then we measure the atmosphere. The one gas that's been missing for 100 years since we've been measuring it has been xenon. 90% of the xenon's missing from our atmosphere. It should be there, but it's not. It's in the water, but it's not in the atmosphere. Turns out that's what the core of the Earth is made of, an iron xenon crystal. And of course, Cambridge got it wrong because they said it was at 5,000 degrees C. And so
hold on, Brooks,
Carnegie
did you just
Science,
say the core of the Earth is made from an iron xenon crystal?
Yes.
So it's not a molten ball like they tell us in school? Okay.
And 2 weeks ago, they put out an article admitting that it was not. Did you see that? That it was not some solid. I thought I quoted it for Space Force, but yeah, that's true.
This is the most leading science you're ever going to hear right here. Because in spectrographic chemistry, it's just like musical notes. We know the exact length of a chemical bond between, say, carbon and oxygen for carbon dioxide, or what we call NCO, which is the core of, say, urethane. We can detect it. We have whole catalogs that we know the exact frequency of this stuff. And so we know the exact frequency of an iron xenon crystal. However, Cambridge got it wrong because they said it was at 5,000 degrees C. So Carnegie Science decided to build an experiment. First, they had to have an industrial diamond about that big. So they made one and they cut it in half. And they put half of it on a hydraulic ram and the other half on an anvil. And then they made a crucible, which is like a stainless steel cup. Yeah. And inside the cup, they put iron filings and they infused it with xenon. And then they smashed it with hydraulic pressure at what they think is the density of this iron core. Yeah. And then they shot a laser through it and they heated it up. At 5,000 degrees C, wrong frequency. It was 6,000 degrees C. Dead on the money. No question whatsoever. But this interesting thing about iron at that temperature and that configuration, it puts out a white light suitable for growing plants, the right wavelength to grow plants. So they wanted to know the size of this, and what they did is they used the orbit of the Earth around the sun, the diameter of the Earth, what we expect is the density of the crust. And admittedly, we've only drilled 8 miles into the sucker, but we have a general idea what the density of the crust is.
Yeah.
And the known density of this iron crystal. Turns out there's about 1,200 miles of missing space. Because we know how heavy the Earth is. We know the diameter of the Earth. And so therefore, and we also know what's called the Lagrange points. The Lagrangian points are a point of equidistance. There are 5 of them. And one of them is in the center of the Earth, of course, in addition to that. It is a point of equidistance between the Earth and the sun. And there's one between the Earth and the moon. And we know these pretty close, like within a couple miles. However, the distance of the Earth to the sun is missing about 1,200 kilometers. Turns out that's the distance.
I really highly suspect that there's some kind of grand conspiracy going on this planet, you know?
Really?
Yeah. I mean, I'm really starting to think that there's, some kind of major conspiracy happening here.
Well, maybe. But I think it's more religiosity. Because when you have several thousand PhDs who are still alive in planetary core geology, that is the blessing. We live on a molten ball floating through space, blah, blah, blah. All our textbooks are written on. All our undergraduates are studying our textbooks. Well, now, folks, they all have to be rewritten.
So
we don't live on a molten ball floating through space.
There's different plants down there, and probably life forms, and there's oceans, and there's civilizations. There's got to be civilizations down there.
Well, people ask me that all the time. Do you think there are races living in the inner Earth? Well, I will tell you, it's an extreme environment down there, where you got a 6,000 degree C core, and you have 1,000, 11, 1,200 miles of open air, not vacuum, but air, and an ocean inside the crust. It could be anywhere between 200 degrees and maybe 50 degrees Fahrenheit. That's pretty extreme.
Yeah, well,
that's pretty extreme. I will say this. If there is space there, I promise you there will be life.
Oh, there are organisms that can exist in the most, there are extremophile organisms that can exist in the most ungodly of situations, and there will be a way that they have found, adapted somehow to exist in that environment. I promise you that.
Well, there are other amazing discoveries. Because, as you know, we were going to plan an expedition up there in 2006, then 2007, and 2008. A huge piece of ice, we call it calving, where a piece of ice like the size of Rhode Island broke off. And it was due to global warming, and it was due to an anomalous wind blowing across the Arctic. This big piece of ice broke off.
Yeah.
And that summer, happened to be the summer that Scripps Institute was going to Malaysia to take its ray samples. Rays are like stingrays and manta rays. They're like tree frogs. Tree frogs are very sensitive to changes in the environment. They grow like 6 legs and mutate crazy. Well, rays do the same thing in the ocean. So every few years, Scripps goes to Malaysia and they catch a bunch of rays and they classify the mutations. And typically they find 20 or 50 weird mutations, and they record them. But in the summer of 2008, they found
exponential
1,500, and many of them were new species. We've never seen them before.
That's wild.
Photographed them, cataloged them, mind blown. But that wasn't all. They found frilled sharks, dorsal squids, things we haven't seen in 5 million years on this planet.
Dorsal squids?
Dorsal squids, like
that's wild.
Squid with a dorsal fin.
Yeah, that's
Who
wild.
Who knows what we're going to find when we're finally allowed to find the stuff. So when
the point is that maybe there's an opening in the crust between these two oceans, and they're mixing. But if it's all covered with ice, that life never makes it to our oceans. If it's open, which it was in 2008, the life can come out and it can get in our seas and we catch it. Well, since then, it's all frozen back over again. So the only way to get there is a Russian nuclear-powered icebreaker we call the Arctica class.
Yeah.
So that's what we want to charter.
Well, they recently made or agreed to make quite a few more of those. They claimed that they wanted to use it for transit in the North Arctic regions, but I mean that could be applicable in so many situations.
Can I?
Sure.
I'll let you finish about the trip to Antarctica, and then I just want to, yeah, I'll let him finish on that first. Did you have something?
Yes, tell us all about Antarctica, the trip to Antarctica.
No, Arctic.
To the Arctic. Okay, yeah. So they calved, and then you guys.
We want to charter this ship, put 125 individuals on it because that's all it'll carry. Scientists from the 6 major universities that came up with these ideas, filmmakers, and what we want to do is we want to stream for 15 days this trip from Murmansk, we would say Murmansk, but it's Murmansk, Russia, out to this 10,000 square mile area. It's about 100 miles by 100 miles. We're going to take 15 days and we're going to bust ice and we're going to see if there's an opening in the crust. It's never been sailed before by sea, ever.
And you're going to live stream it? Oh, you're my hero, Brooks.
We're going to live stream it on 2 channels. There'll be
that's awesome.
Right?
10 to 12 cameras going all the time. So we'll take the 2 best ones
awesome.
and that's what we'll live stream.
So if there is an ocean of water or beneath the crust, how does that affect what we understand as? So where's the lava? How does that affect the earthquakes? I mean, like I recently was watching Dutch Sense, and he has this theory about this standing wave that he was tracking earthquakes and he was able to predict where they were. This is just over the past like 2 weeks. So how does the changing definition of the core and the idea that there might be water, subsurface water here, how does that affect all of that?
Well, I don't know that it does, but the crust is 900 miles thick and it's undulating. It's moving all the time because it's affected by tidal gravity, not just from the moon, but the sun and gravitational waves from the middle of the galaxy. So the crust is kind of dynamic. It has a lot of molten material in it. It's not solid or cold. It's still expanding. It's like it's been doing for 4.5 billion years. So the crust is kind of dynamic, and it is affected by standing waves, and these standing waves can occur through a variety of things, not the least of which is the Schumann resonance, which is energized by lightning all the time. There's lightning all around the earth all the time, and when we have a lot of lightning, the Schumann resonance goes up, and when we have very little lightning, a lot of dry skies. Remember, we have a 5 trillion gallon atmospheric river that flows around the earth all the time. So there's lightning all the time at any given point around the earth, and that's what energizes the Schumann resonance. But it also can cause these standing wave. Standing wave is different than a normal wave in the sense that it can resonate. It can develop power by building on itself. That's the way a microwave oven works. It works off the standing wave in the 1.3 cubic foot chamber.
Exactly. I gotcha.
Okay.
Before you
move to the next question, I just want to thank the super chats from last show: UFO Mark, Chris Hawkins, Suiterbug, Christina Love, Spirish Malonin, Sarah F, Mary Maya, and Brooklyn Way. And we
love you. Thank you.
Thank you so much for your support. And while we're on that note, why don't we go to a quick word from our sponsor and be right back? Yes.
Right.
Do you want to bring balance to all the wireless radiation fields in your life, including 5G? The Omnia Radiation Balancer is a small sticker you can stick on any device. It changes the state of the field and creates a new resonance between the wireless radiation and your energy field. On the link below, you'll see all our testing results that show how the body responds excellently once you've made this change in your life. Plus, here's a special discount code at the store. Just enter SFN at the checkout. It's easy to bring balance back to your body with the Omnia Radiation Balancer.
I'm a damn mess. Thank you, Mark. We love you.
Yeah. So Foyle wanted me to thank you, Mark. Thank you very much for your super chat. It's okay, It's all right, Foyle. Right. We're special. We're really special people. You know what I mean? So I'm just proud of myself. At least I ran the commercial today, and
you remembered at
right,
some
baby
point,
steps.
right?
That's right.
We're working. We're getting there.
Okay, so moving right along. Let me see what time it is right now. All right, so yeah, we'll give it a few more minutes and then go ahead and open up for callers if people want to start calling in and have questions for Brooks or have something they want to share about the inner Earth or anything for that matter. So what were you going to ask, Foyle? Go ahead.
So Brooks, so the crust 900 miles thick. There is molten material in there. So this magma layer, if we assume all of this works out, then it would be actually within the crust itself.
Correct.
Okay.
So we actually have two gravity centers. We have one in the middle of the crust. So the crust is its own gravitational body, and we have one in the core. So the core, if we think of the idea of the Earth collapsing at one point and then re-expanding as it spins and cools and cracks and cools and cracks, that the crust moved away from the core. So if you consider the conservation of momentum, the crust slowed down, but the core stayed at its original speed.
I gotcha.
So even though they're rotating in the same direction, they're also counter-rotating. And that's what generates the magnetosphere around the Earth. This metallic against metallic rotation of magnetic bodies that's causing this generator that's creating the magnetosphere around our planet. And if it wasn't so, I don't think we could live on the surface of our world.
Brooks?
So all successful planets have to have a core.
Do you think it could be another dimension in there?
Yes, but let me qualify that. Because there's another instrument that we built. I didn't take part in it, but I've studied a lot and I've visited them. And that is, I don't know if you've ever heard of this before. It's called the Laser Interferometer Gravitational Wave Observatory. Mm-hmm. Yes? No?
No.
It's a LIGO for short, LIGO. You can look it up on the sites. There's one in Hanford, Washington, one in Livingston, Louisiana. And last summer I was supposed to visit the one in Italy and do some work there, but of course the made-for-TV virus shut all that down, so we didn't get to do that.
Yeah, man.
But what these instruments do is they are interferometers, like Michelson-Morley interferometers, but they're big. Picture a framing square. You know what a framing square is, right?
Yes.
Big L.
Mm-hmm.
Well, each leg of the framing square is 4 kilometers long. That's a long way. That concrete tunnel goes so far out of sight, you can't even see the end.
That's huge.
They shoot a laser down this to pull all the air out of it, shoot a laser down, bounce it off a mirror, and bring it back, and they bring the two beams together to collide with one another. And they bring them together in phase, so they cancel each other out. Mm-hmm. That's why they call it an interferometer. Mm-hmm. It interferes with each other.
Right.
Cancels it out. The theory is, and this was Dr. Kip Thorne and Stephen Hawking's original theory, and we wrote back and forth for years about this, is that if a gravitational wave comes through our neck of the woods, space-time, that is to say the fabric of space-time, warps. And when it does, the laser has to follow the fabric of space-time, so it changes in length. Mm-hmm. And so the idea was if we could get both of these tied together, and it took extremely fast switching computers at all optical cable. I helped pull the cable in the one in Livingston, Louisiana, to get these computers to think the same. Then we could cancel out all the local noise, trucks driving by and earth tremors and wind blowing and waves crashing on we could cancel all that out, and we could listen for these changes in space-time. Mm-hmm. Turns out it worked. But there were a couple things that it detected. It was designed to detect black holes, which it did, and they won the Nobel Prize 2 years ago for doing it. But before that, they were able to detect particles popping into our dimension from another dimension.
Yes.
And that was very remarkable. That was something that nobody expected. Stephen Hawking wrote a paper. I know this is going to really sound weird, but theoretical physicists, we do this, especially if there are copious amounts of scotch involved. If you get close to the edge of the event horizon of a black hole, the theory is that a photon getting close to that will clone itself, and the clone will fall into the black hole and leak out of our universe.
Hawking radiation.
Yes.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
So he wrote this paper, which got a rise out of us. I wrote back and said, look, if that's true, then it means that other universes are leaking into our universe.
Yes. Aren't they running experiments right now in CERN to detect the gravitational leak between universes?
I don't know. It's been a while since CERN was fired up because they made a bunch of upgrades, and COVID.
Or they're supposed to. I just was reading something about that, but they were trying, or maybe it was somewhere else, but they were trying to detect gravitational leakage, interdimensional gravitational leakage, or whatever, right?
Well, that's what LIGOs are built for. And there are three.
Maybe it was there then.
When they're all running, then it can do that. But they have been not running for about 2 years, not together. It takes a lot of money. It takes about $100 million a year to run these three.
You think that's the only reason they haven't been running them?
Well, that, and we realize that in the made-for-TV virus, you could call it a pandemic, but it really isn't. But in the made-for-TV virus, people didn't go to work, and you can't run these things from home. You just can't.
Mm-hmm. Right.
I mean, I have 3 monitors in this room, but when I sit in the control room of LIGO, picture a small warehouse covered in displays. That's how many things we're looking at one time. It's quite amazing. We have our favorites, but we're looking at everything. And they don't have that many people analyzing it all. We're recording it all, but we don't have enough people analyzing it all. And you have mechanical, electrical, and chemical engineers, physicists, they're working. But it's a government project. So, no one's in a hurry to do anything except spend grant money. And it just takes a while to get results. It just takes a while. Grad students come and they work for free, and tourists like me come, and we have our own ideas, and then we go publish books on it and make lots of money. Not really.
There you go.
Joseph Yanni has a question for you, Brooks. He says, ask Brooks if he heard of the SEARL effect. His description of the opposing magnetic forces of Earth sounds like that. But Searle made experiments for an anti-gravity engine based on this.
I have no comment on Searle.
Okay. Yeah, he has no comment.
I think that's all the comment we need. That seems like a comment in and of itself.
I have held all of his technology in my hands, and I've met many, many of his supporters, but I have no comment.
There you go. Well, what are your thoughts on the idea that some things that we read as black holes may be fully traversable wormholes?
In the second chapter of Volume 1 of the Arc of Millions of Years is called The Dimensions. And I proposed a paper when CERN was, we were about 8 tera-electron volts then. Now we've surpassed 14 tera-electron volts. And I think when they fire up, they're supposed to go over 20, which could be hair-raising because we're already messing with the magnetosphere. But anyway, we were about 8 tera-electron volts back then. And the idea of exotic matter being part of time travel or time wormhole travel, because we kind of figured that when we think about a black hole, we think about a singularity, right? A single point of extremely dense matter in the middle, and it's spinning, of course, at its maximum speed because of conservation of momentum. And then the event horizon, which is this place around it outside of which light can exist and inside of which light cannot escape. But then we think about how they come about, and they have to come about with stars at least 4 times the size of our sun, and we don't see many of those really. We're looking at thousands of suns, tens of thousands of suns of mass. And the theory that in the center of every spiral galaxy is probably a supermassive spinning black hole.
Yes.
We're pretty sure that it exists because we can see planets and other stars whipping around the very close to the center of the galaxy. I mean, they're going like 30 RPM. around the center of the galaxy. They're really going fast compared to the distance. So
Right.
it's still a small tire, but it's turning really fast. And of course, Maxwell wrote his paper. Clerk Maxwell is a mathematician, brilliant algebraist, and he surmised that black holes have no hair. That is to say, they're smooth. There's no mountains on them. There's no anomalies on the outside.
Yeah.
However, on the inside is where I theorized the difference might be. I said that the singularity is not a single point. It's not located in the center. It's actually a Heisenberg uncertainty. There's so much mass in the middle, and we look at the disk of the Milky Way, for instance. All spiral galaxies are shaped like a big disk, that maybe the shape of the black hole flattens out as it spins so fast around that axle. And if that's the case, then maybe the singularities do the same thing on the inside. So that means that these supermassive spinning black holes will have centers that have no mass at all for like 30 light years across, which means it's a window that a body could pass through without annihilation. It's not going to run into anything.
Well, there
And
it
the
is.
idea that these extremely dense points in the universe curve space toward it like a big funnel. Like if we had 4 people and we were holding a king-size bed sheet each corner as tight as we could hold it pretty flat until Alara rolls a 16-pound bowling ball into the middle of that sheet.
Right.
Then no matter how tight we hold it, that bowling ball is going to leave a big dent in the middle of that bed sheet. Well, that's what galaxies do to space-time. We just think that maybe these supermassive holes are navigable. They're navigable places.
Well,
of course, it's all theoretical because it would take us to the end of the universe to even travel through it. But
have you seen, and I mean within the last maybe, I don't know, month, there were several papers that were released that were postulating that maybe we didn't, that number warp drive for one thing, but that traveling through a wormhole also would not necessarily be dependent on exotic matter. They actually was it that?
Yeah,
that they
we
were,
just covered
they
that
were,
on Sunday.
that they were speculating that, what is it, solitons maybe would work or something. I think that's the right word. I think that's right.
Well, the Navy's patent, which they just published, I think it was last year,
That's not right.
and which everybody was doing cartwheels about.
Yes, it is. That's soliton for the warp drive. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, it's missing the exotic matter. The exotic matter is in the patent, but no one's ever collected any. In fact, if we had a tablespoon of it right here, it would immediately crash through the crust of the Earth to the center of the planet. That's how heavy it would be. We're talking immensely heavy stuff. There's no way we could spend it.
So what's the deal with element 115? We need something like that. Do you believe that stuff? What do you think about that? Do you think that stuff exists?
Element 115 is unique. It's unique in that it has gravity A and gravity B. It has gravity on the inside of the structure and gravity on the outside of the structure.
Yeah. And
the idea is that it can be amplified with magnetic fields. And those of us that are talking about gravity drives, we are not talking about anti-gravity here. That's a popular term that's been made popular by TV and science fiction.
That's not accurate, right?
It is actually a gravity lens. We're able to take 3 feet of gravity and lens it into, say, 8 millimeters. It's the same amount of gravity.
Right.
It's just in a smaller space. And we haven't been successful doing it yet because we can't influence the flux lines of gravity. But that's the theory. And that's why it would take exotic matter or some way to polarize element 115. We can make it, but you need a lot of it. And it needs to be
it's not
polarized.
stable. Is it they can't get it to hold for longer than, I don't know,
a few
a
nanoseconds.
nanosecond.
It's not
right?
But didn't Bob Lazar say that if you shot protons at it, it would change into 116 and then that's what they used, or am I remembering this right or no?
Well, we don't really have. I mean, we have a way to shoot protons, but they're not sticky like neutrons. We can do neutrons. We use californium and we use other sources like that, and we do neutron activation spectroscopy. But the problem with neutrons is when they come off, you can't do anything with them. There's no electromagnetic way to influence a neutron, so you have to catch it in lead, and it's hard to work with. So, and you know, I haven't written this yet. This is brand new. I hope you don't mind.
Feel free.
On the moon, there's a large deposit of helium-3.
Right.
Helium-3 is different than helium-4, which is what we have on Earth and we fill our party balloons with.
Right.
Helium-3 is light a neutron. So when you fuse them together, if it's possible, because we haven't really actually done that yet. We've done it with deuterium and tritium, but not helium-3. If we could fuse them together, it kicks off 2 energetic protons. Now we're talking something you can do something with. You can influence protons with an electromagnetic grid. Then you could probably influence 115 to stay stable. At least supply it as many protons as it's losing, so it would think it was stable. However, I don't think this can be done on Earth. I'm just saying, we've tried it for 40 years. We've tried tokamaks, we've tried stellariums, we're building ITER. We've been building ITER since I was a senior in college, and I think it'll be 40 more years, and I don't think they'll ever finish it. It's too big. Why? Because you have to overcome air, and you have to overcome the gravity of Earth. You got to suspend the plasma somehow. But all this could be done on the moon.
Right.
In a bottle the size of a butane tank.
Well, maybe they already are.
That's why the gold rush is on.
Yes,
that's why everybody wants to get to the moon.
Yeah. Yeah. You know, we Brooks and I talked about this when I went on his show. You know, he knows my line of thinking on all this stuff.
They want me there. They want me there.
They want you on the moon? I'll bet they want you on the moon. You're pretty knowledgeable.
Send me a postcard, man.
Yeah, I'd want you on the moon. Yeah.
It's only a day and a half away. It's not
right.
like
it's not that far.
It's not that.
It's closer than Yuma, Arizona, to me.
Right.
That's interesting.
I want to go to the moon, so I'm wondering when they're going to let me. Hey, what do you think? Okay, so I'm wondering why no one's calling in yet. That's interesting. I think maybe this conversation.
Let me Go ahead.
Do you have the link?
I'm putting it back in the chat right now.
Now I totally forgot what I was going to ask Brooks. What was I going to ask him?
Of course you did. Of course. I have so many freaking questions. I mean, aside from just what we're talking about now, like I want to know. So what do you think is I'm on this CERN kick as of late. I really want. So do you think there's some crazy stuff going on there? I mean, have they opened up? You know, I want to know about the portals, man. I need to know.
I don't know anything about them. I know about the super magnets, and well, let me tell you a little bit about how CERN works. We have a big circle and a small circle. And what we do with the small circle is we strip off the electrons off of hydrogen. So we're just left with a proton. And the proton is 1 electron volt. It's about 1.001 or 0.999. It depends on the weight of the proton itself. And we send them around this circle in packets. And then what we do is they peel off and they send them into the big circle, and they accelerate them by pouring energy into them. Of course, the more energy they pour into them, the bigger they get and the faster they get. So they get up to about a 99.5% the speed of light. And it takes so much energy. And what happens to the mass of the proton is it goes from 1 electron volt up to 14 tera electron volts. So it's enormous. And then we split the packets into a figure 8 racetrack, like you're watching a demolition derby on a figure 8 racetrack.
And smash them together.
Yes. And we smash them together. Of course, where they come together, we have all these photodiodes.
Okay.
The photodiodes are tuned to specific frequencies so that we can, when we splatter the little beggars apart, we want to see what they're made of. So we gather all that stuff. Now, obviously, between 99% and 99.9%, there's a whole lot of stuff that happens that we don't know about. And we've come up with three conclusions. One, we pretty much know everything that the proton is made of. And the other thing is that we think the protons are holographic. We think that a hydrogen proton is very similar to an iron proton, except for the weight. But the proportions of the subatomic particles that make up a proton are the same. It's chemically identical, but they're different in weight. So what we're really looking at is a hologram. That's two things. The third thing is, for all of that knowledge, we don't know how to make one. We can't turn the frequencies on and make a proton. But I think that's what they're going to try to do with CERN this next time. When they fire it up, they're going to try to figure out the last few pieces, the last few quarks, we call them, to mix them all up in the right proportions and make a proton from energy.
That would be something.
Hello, caller. Welcome to the Conspiracy Couch. I just asked you to unmute, so you should be able to unmute now. If you could just give us a name and make sure you mute the screen. I mean the stream.
Or the screen, whichever works.
Yeah, whichever way works out.
Do they know they're with us?
I've asked them to unmute.
Hello?
Yes.
There you go.
There we go. What's your name? Welcome to the Conspiracy Couch. Nicholas?
Yes.
Welcome to the show,
Hi,
Nicholas.
Laura.
Hello. Can you hear me?
Yes. Hi.
Okay.
Okay.
Hi.
So, I start off, I don't want to be sounding condescending or offensive to anyone's beliefs or anything like that. I'm just trying to urge some outside of the box thinking, okay?
Mm-hmm.
All right. So, stories that we've all known our whole lives are very difficult to envision in new or different ways, particularly when it comes to religion. But just for a moment, I want to try and clear your minds, step back from ego, and listen to the first few verses of the chapter of Genesis and interpret them as if you're hearing them for the first time. And in the back of your mind, kind of be thinking of inner earth and look through at that in that lens.
Hit me.
Okay, starting with verse 6. And God said, let there be a vault between the waters to separate water from water. So God made the vault and separated the water under the vault from the water above it. And it was so. God called the vault sky. And there was evening, and there was morning, the second day. And God said, let the water under the sky be gathered to one place, and let dry ground appear. And it was so. God called the dry ground land, and the gathered waters he called seas. And God saw that it was good.
Okay. I mean, I understand that interpretation. I believe the King James Version says, and the Spirit of God moved across the waters and divided the waters from the waters. Now, what I see when I read that is a water planet that is divided. That is to say, two planets are made from one. And it isn't vault that is the proper interpretation. The actual English from the King James Version is firmament. Let there be a firmament between the waters. And firmament isn't interpreted to be sky, it's interpreted to be space.
Is that the definition of firmament? Space?
Yeah, like outer space. So what I'm seeing is that God formed a planet from a water planet. He separated the two planets. And then he created dry land on one of them. So we think that's the planet that went through the rift of the Milky Way and was settled in the orbit here around this sun, because the third day he creates a light to govern the day and a light to govern the night. We don't even know what a day is until he places it in orbit around this sun.
Interesting.
It's true.
Interesting.
One last comment, theory, question.
Uh-huh.
Have any of you considered the thought if Noah's Ark was a means of escaping a flooded inner Earth to our surface level?
Yeah. In fact, when we wrote the Ark of Millions of Years, because that's what Noah called his ship, that's what he called his boat, was the Ark of Millions of Years. We actually considered that maybe the race from Adam to Noah lived on the other planet. And his ship was sailing on the sea of that planet that took 7 months to travel here and merge with this planet. And that ocean actually smashed into this planet and took all those months to settle out. And then Noah's race and the race of man, which had been here for who knows how long to till the earth, multiply and replenish the earth, the two races combined. And we are the result of that combination.
So would the Nephilim be the other race?
No, that Nephilim is someone else. You know, it's interesting. I love that Nicholas brought the book of Genesis up, because by the time you get through it, you're introduced to 5 different races of beings, none of whom are from here.
Right. You
Who
got
are
what?
the 5?
You got fallen angel. You've got the mixture of the angel and the human, right?
You got Lucifer.
You got Lucifer. You
got
think
Adam, who's built from the earth, and you got Eve, who was grown up
built from
somewhere
Adam
and brought back.
Whatever. Okay. Right.
And then after Cain killed Abel, Cain went and lived with
The
whoever.
land of Nod.
Right?
Right.
There were some other people. Yeah. Who are all these
Exactly.
people? You know?
Those are the people that existed on what we call the lower earth or the temporal earth. So when we divide these things out, you have higher Adam and lower
I
Adam.
never thought about that. Interesting.
Higher Adam is Adam to Noah, and lower Adam is the race of man that was on this planet for a long time, tilling the earth before Noah's group ever got here.
Fascinating. I never thought about it like that.
The Nephilim were sent as watchers to make sure the whole thing didn't fall apart, but they were tempted by Lucifer, and they began breeding with the women.
See, I thought the Nephilim were the offspring of the Watchers and the
There
humans.
is a Nephilim that's an offspring, but
So
there's
this is-
also a Nephilim that are the fallen angels.
Well, do tell, because this is where Laura and I.
Well, they refer to the giants as the Nephilim too, correct? Or they?
Yes, that's
but
correct.
I don't know if that's a correct way to refer to them, because well, go ahead.
There is a race of giants called the Nephilim, but there's also the Nephilim, which are the fallen angels. It's kind of confusing, but it's the difference between
Not at all.
Genesis and Deuteronomy.
Not at all. It actually makes a lot of sense. So what? Okay, I know you said you talk about esoteric things quite frequently as well. So, I personally believe that there are fallen angels trying to get their tech or whatever through the veil, that they're trying to maybe get us to open it for them. That there are. Please.
Here she goes with this.
No, I'm not going to. I want to hear what he thinks.
I'm into it. The thing is that there was enmity placed between the seed of the woman and Lucifer. You recall Lucifer beguiled Eve. The theory is that Eve, being this very special, genetically pure being, was beguiled and impregnated by Lucifer. She ran to Adam.
She was what? But hold on. She was what by Lucifer? Eve was what?
We usually think that meaning as tricked, but beguiled actually means like seduced.
Seduced.
Mm-hmm.
She was pregnant with Lucifer's.
What? How did I not know this?
And she went to Adam and she got pregnant again. So she had 2 fetuses inside of her. One was Lucifer's and one was Adam's, and they were both born. Now, obviously, Cain slew Abel. And I always wondered why God let Cain live, because now his DNA is mixed throughout, and it makes so much sense. Because listen to me, when you think about the cabal, you think about this dark evil race that's on this planet. What do they care about more than anything?
Power?
Genealogy.
Yes, the bloodlines.
That's true.
This is the birth of the reptilian race on Earth.
Right. You have to have the certain
Oh,
mix of
Laura's in it
DNA.
now.
Oh
Look,
man, this is a great rabbit hole. I'm loving this.
right? She's caught now.
Yeah.
Thanks, Brooks. I've been trying for months.
If you don't have the threshold of DNA, the spirits that follow Lucifer cannot go around the well of souls and come to earth. The only way to get through the well of souls is to be in God's likeness, to have kept your first estate, the 2/3 that did. We come here the right way. The others go around the well of souls, and they're born in the flesh, evil. And when the flood happened, a lot of that was wiped out. It took thousands of years for the cabal to find the individuals that had the blood.
Because there was a lot of that, not all of that. They were on the earth and after that. Like
Yes.
in those days and after that. They were still here.
So what kind of program would you need
Yeah,
to be able
buddy.
to find that DNA mix?
Bruh.
You
All right,
have to develop a
let me
government
let me
program.
thank Nicholas and take the next caller.
Yes, thank
So-
you, Nicholas.
Thank you for
so
bringing
much.
that up.
Yeah, thank you for bringing that up. That was a great.
Pleasure. Thank you.
Yeah,
My
is
fault.
this Nicholas Houston, by the way?
Yes.
Oh,
Oh,
okay.
hello.
It's nice to hear your voice, Nicholas.
Right.
Thank
Did
you.
we do
Hello,
well?
hello.
Did
Yeah.
we do well answering the questions?
Very well. Thank you very much.
Thank
Yeah,
you for
thank-
calling.
Thank you for calling in, Nicholas. That was awesome.
Yeah, Brooks, I've been like I'm with you.
Well,
Think
as
I'm
it turns
completely
out,
with you.
DARPA, which is a funder of a
Oh.
lot of stuff, one of the
Not a fan of
programs that
those
they
guys.
funded was a program that my brother started at Johns Hopkins called the Human Genome Project.
Yes. Oh, they're
So-
into some wild stuff. I mean, the dreads, like that's crazy in and of itself. But I mean, they are like the mad scientists of mad scientists. Those
What
guys.
they really wanted to do is they wanted to gather DNA from everybody alive, and they wanted the government to pay for it. And the
Yeah, well,
government
it's so nice. We've got these private companies now. You can just send it right in. How
that's-
convenient.
That was the brilliance. They said, "Why don't we sell the idea?
Uh-huh. We pay
we'll get
for
the
it,
people
send it in, and look
Give
at that.
us their DNA, and we'll be able to trace all this stuff and find the missing bloodlines."
Oh, yeah.
Hello, Keystone Channel. Welcome to the Conspiracy Couch. How are you tonight?
What up, Keystone?
Hello, girls. And sorry, Brooke, was it?
Brooks.
Hello.
Lovely to see you.
I like that
Yeah.
17 on your hat.
Right? Nice.
Yeah, I had a bad hair day and I had my own stream, so I figured I stick around. So I found this really interesting. Now, I was just listening in and that theory, Noah, Adam, all that. I'm not religious. I'm not a Bible girl, although obviously I grew up with the things and all that. And my theory is that like a book being so old can be manipulated quite a bit, but then, that's kind of how I see it from a logical standpoint of view. So on the other side, there is the books from the Busiji Mountains I've been always, ranting about. It's regarding what they found in 2003 in Romania, in these mountains. Have you ever heard of it, Brooks?
More information before I answer. I don't know about Romania.
So, in Romania, the Americans, they found within these mountains chambers. And so they had to enter those chambers, and it was covered by an energetic grid. Nobody could enter it. And that was because they didn't know at first. Now, it turns out in Iraq it was the same kind of mountain during the war. This is just a build up to where I'm going with this, right? It's just short. Now, everybody that had a low vibration could not enter. They would immediately pulverize into pulver as soon as they tried to enter. But then there were people that had like really high vibrations. They managed to enter. So they entered the mountain, and based on this, Romania has been let into NATO, and that is because they wanted to put this all public. And obviously the Americans didn't want that, and the Masons and the Vatican and all that. And so they decided to keep a lid on it, and in return, Romania was added to NATO. On top of that, the moment they entered the mountain in Romania, the mountain in Iraq responded with a signal. Now, what's in the mountain? What they found is technology done by giants, apparently, because everything was really big, and it has it's ancient technology, but it's so advanced that we don't even know about, which is holographic technology that shows pretty much the whole history of Earth. Now, there are 7 books now. Now, the last one happens to speak, or the 6th one, the 7th is, I've done the 7th now, and there's still 4 books coming out, and they come out in order for when humanity is ready for it. So it starts also with the fact that the whole discovery will change humankind. That's what has been said about it. The writer is the one that does also the expeditions. Now, back to the story about the whole Adam and Eve thing. They explain what happened, and because they've been shown in holographic form. Literally, they can hook up to a machine, and then with your brain you go to a thought where you want to see, and then it pops up. So it literally taps into the Akashic records, so to speak. And so everything I read about it, it all made sense. But if I'm going to tell that, it will put the whole world upside down, because it's so different from what we've been taught. However, when I was reading it, it made all sense to me. Now, for people that are Christians and reading the Bible, that will come a bit of as a shock. And obviously there were aliens involved. There were the space wars at the time, and we're talking about 300 BC. And so there were spaceships that were damaged. They came to the Earth to mine stuff for their reparations of their spaceship. And at that moment, they encounter the primitives, so to speak. And so, long story short, they start interfering with the genetics of it. And there is 2 groups. The one, they help developing, evolving with alien technology. The other half, they let them evolve naturally. However, what they say is based on alignments of stars, planets, that creates a frequency which then creates the DNA of the human being. And this is how we evolve. So every so many thousands of years, with alignments of stars, a certain frequency happened, which then changed the DNA and actually everything on Earth, right? Now, if you look at it, at the end of the day, then it explains that Adam comes from that group that has been also manipulated with other races. And that's how they merge. I'm not going to go further in it because we get a whole different discussion, right? And for that, go read the books from the beginning, though, book 1, which actually is next week in the book club from Kate. Then back to Inner Earth itself, what they talk about is that at the time of Atlantis, the etheric world and the physical world were kind of merged together. And because at a certain point there was a turn with it where humanity and interference of these reptilians and all that became lower of vibration, and there was a whole group that was higher of vibration. So they needed to separate them. So what happened is Atlantis sank, but what they call Shambhala, which would be in the inner earth at the time, was actually in the physical realm, but it was turned into an etheric realm. So if I read a lot of books about inner earth from different years and different authors, and they all kind of tell the same story, right? How they get there, how they go through some sort of time distortion. And so when I read the books, it all made sense to me, because it's not a physical world, it's rather an etherical world. So it's not
So it's another dimension, like I was asking him earlier.
It's the in-between. It's the in-between those two. So, and they had to do that because to save those that were of higher vibration at the time of Atlantis. And so it made sense to me, but obviously you need to read the books because there's so many details about it in it. And it just adds up everything, even the floods, you know? And so back to the Shambhala, which then at the time was accessible for everybody, so they moved it to the etheric realm. This is how the Mayans also disappeared, and the Aztecs, because they went in there as well. And then they developed their whole cities. Now they are in a sort of a different realm, but at the same time it's not completely in another dimension, so it's still in our space, in the inner earth. But it's very difficult to explain. They do explain it in the book, but I'm not that advanced yet, and English is not my first language, and I need to read the books like 2 times to grasp the point.
Well, Brooks, so could there not be a physical, like, instead of thinking inner Earth, could there not be physical beings somewhere in space within the crust of the Earth that people are thinking of as like being inside? And then Brooks, if you want to expand maybe on what Keystone said, or what are your thoughts on that?
Well, I'm a scientist, so belief is not really part of my methodology. I'll put it that way. So when I look at data, for instance, UFOs have been spotted in every single nation. In fact, if we were to catalog them, we would find that it's much more plentiful than people think. However, we also know that they're as present as they want to be. And if they wanted to be more present, there probably wouldn't be anything anyone could do about it. That being said, they're not in the sky all the time. They got to go somewhere.
Right.
They have to park.
That's right.
Somewhere. They have to live somewhere. And so one of the reasons why we want to do this Arctic expedition is because, of course, the sea up there is 4,400 meters deep. That's not navigable for us. We have to send drones down to the bottom to gather the samples. But this would not be difficult for an advanced race. An advanced race would be able to build a ship that could hold the water back so they're not crushed under so much water, so much weight, like we would be in, say, a submarine or a bathyscaphe or something like that. So I thought maybe if we could take this giant ship, this Arctica, up to the Arctic Circle, we would be the only consciousness signal for 300 miles in any direction. Yeah. If they're there and we can raise our vibration to a certain point, they will come to see us, and when they do, we'll get it on film because we'll have.
Oh, I want to see it,
man.
Infrared and visible. We'll have the technology to be able to film them, and show the world that they really do exist and they do live on the bottom of the sea. It's quite possible. I mean, the sea covers most of the Earth.
There's bases. There's evidence of bases at the bottom of the sea floor. You know what I mean? So where are they going, and what do they do?
We were just talking about how they
around.
put the bubble and go underwater without any interference, and how it doesn't seem that the depth or any of that bothers them.
Their bases move around too.
But this it's they go through the poles. There are entrances that way, but they're also, those are physical entrances where you go through the time-space distortion. But then you also have entrances that you need to be more advanced to enter that, because there are certain places in America on native territory. There is Argentina, there's Brazil, there's all over the place, and so that's where you can enter as well, but you need to know how. And so obviously they are more advanced. Now, if we look in ancient depictions.
One second. Mrs. Lizard Breath, I see that you guys are trying to go to bed and you had a burning question for Brooks.
Something about crystals.
Could you please retype? Could somebody retype what that question is so that we can have him answer that before you go? I don't see the question. Go ahead, Keystone.
Yeah. crystal plays a big role in here as well. So this is what is mentioned in the book as well, how they use crystals, certain grids of crystals, to actually enter in this time-space distortion. So everything is much shorter. It's like, you know, how what you call that, going through a porthole, a wormhole kind of thing. Same kind of concept. Now the ocean within the earth, there is also in the inner earth is this ocean. The black hole is the inner sun, as it is explained in the book. Now what they say is that the black hole, and I found this really interesting, the black hole is not only absorbing, it's also creating. How interesting is that, if you think about it? So, and it's very extensively in detail, it's explained on a scientific level, even everything, even how they travel from city to city, although there's rocks in between, and yet they go through these rocks, but obviously not physical, but they have this technology and they explain it in the book in detail. It's amazing.
Brooks, they would like to know the color of the crystal in the Earth's center.
It would be, that's a good question. It would, and I'm trying to remember the exact wavelength, but it is in the sub-infrared range. So it's not ultraviolet. It doesn't put out ultraviolet light, but it's in the 800 to 900 nanometer range. So this is the range that photosynthesis can take place. So it could support plant life. It would appear to be a white light to an orange light. That's the light that iron at this temperature with the xenon matrix would put off. And of course, 6,000 degrees C is the same temperature as the surface of the sun. However, we're not talking about open space here. We're talking about air. And so a lot of this heat could be insulated away from the inside of the crust. Difficult to tell. It's a lot of mass for this inner core. And it's not a sun per se. There's no fusion going on. There's no ultraviolet radiation. It is all longer wave radiation, but it is suitable for photosynthesis, kind of like having a grow light in your basement. You don't have a sun, but you do have that wavelength, and it's iron that produces that wavelength.
So they explain in the book how they have light within the inner earth, right? And so, and here's the interesting thing, they use an obelisk. And now I don't know what they do with it.
Obelisks?
But obviously,
Obelisks?
And
okay.
Obelisks.
Yeah.
And I don't know what they do. They have plant life. They have animals that we don't have anymore here. There is just one book only dedicated on the inner earth. The explanation is so extensive, you can make that stuff up. But I have also quite a scientific mind because I'm analytical, I'm logic. But at the same time, I'm also open-minded to anything else. And so when I read these books, I was blown away because literally they explain also. He cannot go into detail about certain things because he's not allowed to, because the Pentagon is involved, and you know, but the stuff that they do share is you cannot make that stuff up. And so the crystals that you talk about are also described where they actually enter the tunnel within that room in the mountain, where they go through a tunnel that is where they use these specific crystals, and it gives a certain light. And if you're not trained, you go nuts, because you need to be of a very spiritual, high vibrational being, in order of human being, in order to not get your whole brain scrambled up to go through it. So when they go to one tunnel, they end up within 10 minutes under the Sphinx in Egypt from Romania. And that's what is there. And so I just recommend everybody reading the books, because everything passes by, even the Bible, the you know, everything that we know from the Bible is just explained different, and to me it made sense, much more sense, because the Bible, after all, is a bit cryptic, right?
And you can't get these books on Amazon?
Yes, you can. I have the Kindle because in America, but it's translated. It's written by Radu Sinemar. He is one of the expeditioners, and it is translated by Peter Moon, who also wrote the Montauk Project.
They want to know, Brooks, what color is the crystal, not the light coming off of it, but what color is the crystal itself?
And I'm posting links to the papers you were discussing and other things that I'm putting the sauce in the chat for you.
Okay, great. Well, I don't know. It's going to put off that light because that's the frequency that we can detect with our spectrographic equipment. Iron at that temperature puts off a frequency when it's matrixed with xenon that is kind of a double shaped hump, for one very tall for iron and one very short for xenon. They kind of overlap one another, but they're distinct, and only that matrix can put off that wave shape. So the color is probably in the like I said, white to orange range.
If you just had this cooled a piece of it, you wouldn't find just a cooled piece of it and see what color it actually was. I think that's what they're asking. Like not heated, just if you found a piece.
Right.
I have a picture of the actual cold piece of iron, and it's kind of rainbow colored. The one that they put in the crucible and they crush and they heat it
with the xenon, and then when it's done, when the heat comes off of it, then it's like a shimmery grayish
silver with a rainbow blue and colors in it. I have a picture of the one that they did at Carnegie Science.
Summer says, much love to this platform. Love to you both. God bless you for all you do. Thank you, Summer. Go ahead,
you know how also Corey Good and all the people that does space program, etc., they talk about places where there is light, but there's no light bulbs and all that.
Mm-hmm. Now they say it's coming off of the plant life, bioluminescence, correct? Am I wrong?
Yeah, there is something. Well, in exactly the same within the inner Earth, but funny enough, they don't explain it. Why not? Because, we're not allowed to know yet. But certain things they do explain, because he says, they cannot do anything to me because he's one of the person that can actually enter. And here's the interesting thing. Evil people cannot enter because they would die, because their vibration is too low. Now think about this.
They can't enter the Basiji Mountains where
they cannot enter these portals. They cannot enter because they die. And so
right, but they can't enter where? Keystone is what I'm trying to figure out. Where can't they?
In the Basiji Mountains, or in these tunnels that lead to, one leads to Egypt, the other one leads to the inner Earth, and another one again leads to Tibet. Right. But they cannot, there's no book out yet about the Tibet. I've been waiting,
I understand.
It cannot be written yet. So this is the interesting thing. Every single time I have to wait, because only when we're ready for it do the books come out. Now I started when the second book was out, then I have to wait 1 year or longer before the next comes out. And each book is like mind-blowing all in itself. The DNA of us from 300 BC starts to be explained. Well, that's pages long. It's pretty dry, but like in detail how our
DNA
is built up.
Brooks, you had mentioned there being 2 seeds in Eve, right? And there being enmity between them, and one will strike at your heel and you will strike at his head. Like I remember all that. Mm-hmm. So if we're talking about, so this convolution of the DNA, would that not theoretically be what they refer to as like original sin, or why you would be born with original sin?
Well, I haven't really thought of it that way, but it could be, yes. The idea is that the physical being is reserved for the spirits of God to come through the well of souls and be born into a body.
Right.
And that's why God placed enmity between Lucifer and the seed of the woman, because Lucifer just said, well, go ahead, make all the bodies you want. I'll just take them.
Mm-hmm. Can we clarify something real quick? I saw somebody in the Foxhole chat earlier saying something about Satan. Satan and Lucifer are 2 separate beings, correct? They're 2 separate. They're not the same thing.
Yeah, that's confusing.
See, I've never thought they were the same thing. So, but you guys, your understanding, hold on, your understanding, Foil, is that they're the same. And Brooks, yours is that they're the same? Is your understanding that they're the same, Keystone?
Well, there are religionists out there who are trying to make excuses for Lucifer by saying he was an angel of light.
Right.
He was actually
Yes.
our advocate. He came to Earth with us. I'm
Well-
not a believer in that sense. I go strictly off the evidence,
Right.
and there's no room for two evil beings. Lucifer and Satan would be at war with each other, and the whole Earth would be destroyed. They're the same being.
I
Okay.
agree.
There is evil, but I don't see it as in a biblical sense as what I understood. However, because now I lost my train of thought
Well,
quickly
there are
because it
dark
wasn't.
beings in the
Yeah,
universe.
yeah, absolutely, there are. Oh, that was it.
You're in physical form.
Yeah, so the aliens, because we can see them in depictions from ancient ago, and UFOs and all that. You can actually follow the trail. Now I also finally understand how they got to leave all the same depictions from Egypt to Australia and to the Easter Island and stuff. I finally understand that because it's completely explained in the books, and it made so much sense. However, the aliens that interfered, I call them aliens, right? That's a shitty word, but I'm calling them like that. And so that interfered with that group that is genetically evolved through alien technology. It doesn't mean that they interfere from an evil perspective, because, and this is what it said, they too come from God.
Right.
Yeah.
And so, and when you
I know this because you have to read the book, but I haven't always lived on this planet. My soul is from somewhere else too, and I can tell you, aliens are not all evil.
Right.
no,
I
and
agree.
That's why the alien human hybrid program makes no sense to me, because once you create a physical being, who gets the body? Who decides who gets the body? When
well,
it's aliens and when it's humans, I can tell you right now that light is going to take that body. But
And-
when it's Luciferian DNA, light cannot take that body. Light would die in that body. Only darkness can live in that body.
What?
well, I don't
Keystone,
know about that.
I have 3 people in the waiting room, so if you can.
Okay, can I just finish one thing, because this is very important, because you said that, and it's interesting because the first ones that interfered then with the human, and it was so beautiful, it made me cry because it made all sense, because it was divine that this war was there, that they ended up with their broken ship over here, and it turns out they were born under the same star alignments as the Earth. This is why they could merge as a races together with the primitives here now, and this is so beautiful. And the first ones were the Syrians from Sirius. So Alara, that would be you. and then later came other races involved, and I'm not going to talk about Adam because that's going to
Syrians, yeah.
Yeah, they were the first. But anyway, guys, read these books. It's mind-blowing. Be open-minded about it. It makes sense.
Thank you, Keystone, for calling
We
in.
love you.
Yes.
I'll be happy to read
I
them.
love
We
you
love
guys too.
Yeah.
And great video yesterday. Sorry I wasn't there live.
Oh, it's all right.
Oh, yesterday? Yeah, it's okay.
Thanks for watching.
It's all right. It's hard to get around to
Yeah.
everybody's shows. I understand. Believe
I
me.
know. I love you too so much.
Love you too,
Bye.
Keystone. Thank
Love
you
you.
for
Have a
calling
good
in.
night.
Bye.
Thank you, Brooks.
Thank you.
All right. So who do we have next?
So what I just want to clarify about that you have to have certain DNA, or the spirit of the spirits that did not get their first estate, the ones that were cast out, they can live in physical form, and they reincarnate over and over and over. But that's why they got to have the bloodlines. That's why they follow the bloodlines so carefully. That's why genealogy means so much to them.
So clarify this for me.
Yeah, that
So
makes sense.
okay, so there is reincarnation. They use it. But what about the children of God that come directly from the well of souls? Is it not given to them to live once and then the judgment for those guys?
No, we are eternal beings having a mortal experience, and we have many on many worlds.
So you believe reincarnation is the function of the universe, period, like over and over and
Until
over
we
again.
overcome everything. And even then we can choose to come again. Mortal life is heaven for a spirit.
Let me ask to unmute. Hi, Ryan. Welcome to Conspiracy
Hello.
Couch. You got to unmute. You got to unmute here on Zoom, and you got to mute your stream in the background. There you go.
All right, I did both.
Okay.
Already muted the screen. All right. Well, the first thing I hear you talk about when I came on was a quote. It reminded me of a quote of Nikola Tesla, believe it or not. I'm going to read this quote to you, and it's going to amaze you, like how on it that what you're describing. So this quote, it says, all right. If I can get to it. Where'd it go? Oh, don't tell me. Oh, here it is. When the great truth was accidentally revealed and experimentally confirmed, it's fully recognized that this planet, with all its appalling immensity, is to electric currents virtually no more than a small metal ball, and that by this fact, many possibilities, each baffling imagination and of incalculable consequences, are rendered absolutely sure of accomplishment. When the first, that was the part that I wanted to read about that.
I agree with that. I think Planet Earth is the greatest show in the universe, and all the beings of the universe are focused on this little tiny.
It's
It
definitely
does
some
seem
kind of
that
show.
way. It does seem that way.
Man.
They all seem to be totally into whatever's going on here. And this place is...
Look, all the greatest spirits in the universe have had a mortal life here.
I can see that.
Have you read the there's an article, go to Test the Universe. It's called A Famous Prophet of Science Looks into the Future. Have you read that?
I haven't read it.
You need to go read it. It talks about radium energy, how it can go through any obstacle, no matter how thick. I'm lost the Zoom meeting.
Everybody's got you reading tonight, Brooks.
Right?
You can be reading
But,
for the next 6 months.
But basically, there's a lot of stuff that, like, Tesla says this, like, well, the article talks about radium energy, how it basically is what controls and materializes things. It transforms energy. It basically can tear something apart energy-wise and put it back together as what it was or as something else. And it can move that energy through any obstacle, like a planet or a black hole even, or it can move it through anything. Nothing can stop it. And then have you heard of this? Watch, I'm gonna play something that I read on one of my videos, and it's easier to do it this way because to read it again right now, I'm tired and I couldn't do it.
Well, if you play it, they probably won't.
I had it ready here. If I could find the dang thing. Where'd it go?
You have to be like us and have more than one display.
Right.
Yeah.
I had it ready. I had it ready and it's gone. Okay, here we go. I got it now. Oh, I thought I had it.
3 of them seems to be the trick, huh, Brooks?
I
Without
have
3, you can't.
I accidentally closed the damn thing, I think.
Did you have another question for Brooks?
Well, yeah. I wanted to like what was the other thing? Basically, it was if you read that article before, but okay. There's another quote that he wrote. The scientists of today think deeply instead of clearly. One must be sane to think clearly, but one can think deeply and be quiet and sane. And then today's scientists have substituted mathematics for experiments, and they wander off through equation after equation and eventually build a structure which has nothing in relation to reality.
Yeah, I mean, in physics, especially when we're talking about astrophysics, we use an instrument called the Standard Model, which is basically matrix mathematics. And when we put the inputs into this matrix, we get answers that we don't like. Like, for instance, we get 0 or we get infinity. So we put in conversion factors. We call them constants, and they could be gravitational constants, they could be time constants, but it's designed to cancel out all the units so that we get results that we can rely on. We don't like infinity and we don't like zero. And they focus so much on this that it leads them astray. We spent a tremendous amount of time and energy and money on something called string theory. And now string theory is no more. It's dead. No one pays attention to string theory anymore. And about a year and a half ago, Anthony Garrett-Lisi came up with the point space model, which we call the E8 lattice, which is an 8-dimensional expression of, I wish I had when I had a crystal tetrahedron here, but we take tiny tetrahedrons, we smash them together, and then we take the single point in the center, draw a sphere around it, and that creates what we call point space. We draw vertices between the points, and that comes up with what's called the Gaussian polytope in the 8th dimension. We want to get it into the 4th dimension, which is 3rd dimension plus time. So we take the square root of it. Okay, that's mathematically how we divide exponents. However, when we take the square root of it, we don't get 2 equal pieces. They're different sizes, and they are 1.618 difference. That's the origin of the golden mean. That's the energetic, shall we call it, spontaneously, constructively interfering ratio of the universe. Without it, the universe doesn't exist. None of the physical matter that we see in the universe exists. All the electrons, all the protons that make up everything
that's interesting.
in the universe don't exist without the golden mean.
Interesting.
So that's the basis. That's the total basis of resonance in this dimension. And without it, we're still the singularity, and the Big Bang never happened.
Get this. I figured out what the Voynich manuscript depicts. It is the blueprint design of the matrix AI system that runs our material holographic world. And there's a depiction down in the town of Punku. You know why they named it that town that name? They named that town that name because I have it written right down here. Basically, it's because they punk you and me with the representation of their AI holographic radium energy RAM technology that materializes and manifests our world. And the depiction it shows all these doors that are closed and all these faces on the wall. The faces are representing the pareidolia. And then there's closed and open doors entering in and out of dimension. And then basically, those two things go together, the Voynich manuscript and the wall that you see. There's an image. I usually have it on my background, but I don't have a green screen right now, so I don't have it on my background.
Well, I agree that the physical world would not exist if it was not for human intelligence, or the intelligence that makes up humans. We are the creative source that slows the universe down so we can behold it.
It's our imagination that does it too.
Yeah, our ability to image. Exactly. What we're experiencing right now, you, me, Loyal, Alara, is the average reality. I mean, if I carry all of us outside to a green grass and I say, what do you see? And you each said green grass. But in reality, your green and my green and Loyal's green and Alara's green are different.
I've always figured that, yeah.
We're experiencing an average reality, which is the result of all of the intelligent beings, all the sentient beings in our space. And the average reality can change based upon the consciousness of the race on the planet at the time. The planet can change based on us. We're the ones that are making this planet this way.
Yeah.
I figured out the one reason why people can read like one email and interpret it in different ways, and it's what percentage of your brain you're using for analytically versus imaginatorily. So if you like read a quote from Nikola Tesla, say, and you go into your cache of records in your mind of what you've been taught, what's been defined and dictated to you through the dictationary, and when you pull that information out of there versus your imaginary mind, you're doing it from a defined, dictated way of thinking. And then, but if
you're using a lot of terms interchangeably, Akashic records, and by you, I mean, I think you mean y'all.
Y'all, yes,
Yeah.
everybody.
So the Akashic records are records that can be written into in the third dimension. You cannot write in the Akashic records unless you're in the third dimension. When Jesus came here, he established something that had never been established before in this universe, and that's the resurrection. He had to write it in this dimension. Can't be written in another dimension. And he was the only being that could write it.
Yes.
Once that gate was open, now we can all access it.
Yes.
You know,
I never
Jesus
heard
had
that.
one
That's
mission
interesting.
when he came here.
Yes.
I found that spot that I want to let you listen to something, me read something, and it's like 30 seconds.
Okay, we got 2 more people, Ryan. So.
Yeah.
30 seconds. I'm gonna play it, then we're done. Okay.
That makes people feel.
Hold on, I missed it.
A true loving God. Well, he is out.
I had it stable.
You're killing me, Ryan. You're killing me, man.
You're killing me, Smalls.
Right?
No, I thought it was gonna.
A lesson in live streaming.
I thought I had it, but I didn't have it saved.
Extra monitors rock is all I can say.
Bruh.
I couldn't do it without 3 monitors. There's no way I could do what I do without 3 monitors.
Never live stream from bed. That's
okay. I got it. It's right here.
All right.
Okay.
Universe.
Now you guys are talking. All right. I think
Sorry, we distracted you.
Of course, we're talking. That's right.
I heard those eyes.
The world shall not be a world of the downtrodden.
Okay, it's after this. Just let me finish reading
But
this.
of free men and free nations,
Finishing a quote.
equal in dignity.
It's the next quote I read.
Respect for man.
Right
The law
here.
of vibration, the third of the 7 universal laws, tells us that nothing rests, everything moves, everything vibrates. The third and last of the immutable universal laws tells us that the whole universe is but a vibration. Science has confirmed that everything in the universe, including you, is pure energy, vibrating at different frequencies. Everything that we experience with pure live physical senses is conveyed through vibrations. The same applies to the mental realm. Your thoughts are vibrations. All your emotions are vibrations. Unconditional love, in the sense of love for one another, is the highest and most suitable of the emotional vibrations, and hate is the densest and most base.
Right.
You can learn to.
We are biological transducers.
Yep.
We
We
can
all
generate.
Amen to that.
And we all have a rotating magnetic field that flows around and through all of us,
The Merkaba.
individually and as a whole.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for calling in, Ryan.
We love you as always.
Yep.
Same here.
Appreciate your call. Have a great evening.
You guys too.
Okay. Let's see. All right. Don't report. I don't know why it does that reporting thing. We have 2 callers in the waiting room. We'll take them and then we'll close out the show. That'll be right around 2 hours. Drunk Pinata, welcome to Conspiracy Couch.
Well, that's awesome.
How you guys doing?
How's it
Good.
going?
How are you?
You know, believe it or not, that I'm really glad he played that quote because that was very close to where I was going to go with things. So I think that saves some time there. You really piqued my interest. Is tying things together, especially with like the whole talk of like different bloodlines, and then in the whole like what is the motivation behind the cabal thing. I think that was really succinct the way you kind of like described that, and it's. I think I may have heard the discussion of Well of Souls before, but that really jogged, especially when you were talking about the observation of the protons being holographic, and essentially, you know, with everything being wavelengths. And I actually have a background professionally in acoustics and vibrations, so I love frequency, right?
Yeah.
So it's interesting how like
Voxel says they love you, by the way. Carry on.
So the DNA tends to be like what? It's like basically picking up a particular frequency Is that tying into kind of the well of souls idea and how the bloodlines, particularly like when they're trying to suss out where there are these different things, are they trying to find light or dark DNA? And do they need to have, sorry, go ahead.
They're trying to find dark DNA. What they're trying to find is the Luciferian strains, because that physical body can accept a demon and be born in the flesh. So these demons are born evil. They are born as infants evil, and they stay evil their entire lives. I didn't believe it. For a long time, I didn't believe it. And then I was interviewing a criminal psychologist, and we were actually discussing incarceration as a means of rehabilitation. I said, I don't think it works. I don't think you can put a person in prison and make them a better person and have them come out and be better. He said, Brooks, you don't understand. By the time we catch up with these individuals and we get them removed from society, we get them isolated from society, we start realizing who and what they are. These individuals, when they punch somebody in the face and blood shows up on the face, they get an erection. You can't rehabilitate that, Brooks. He said, these people are dark. They're evil inside. And it starts at birth. They're not trained this way. They are born this way. And I didn't believe it for a long time.
Sociopaths, you know, like sociopaths.
Worse, I read the Book of Enoch. You go to the Book of Enoch, there are giants who actually want to turn over a new leaf. They want to be good people. They are immensely strong. They work with mankind. They do hunting. They do building. They reroute rivers, all kinds of stuff.
Yeah.
And they came to Enoch and said, look, we want you to go to God, and we want you to ask him if we can be saved. You know, we help people. We're good people.
Right.
And Enoch repeatedly would go to God and speak with him, and God would say, no, we cannot save them. They cannot be saved. They come from a different place. And so Enoch would go back and tell them, I'm sorry, there's nothing I can do. Your soul doesn't belong here.
So are there extraterrestrials that got stuck here somehow? They got stuck here?
Extraterrestrials is the wrong word. Before we were all physical beings on this world or any other world,
right?
There's an etheric realm where we all existed, and we had a war there. We fought a war, and a third of them were cast out of that realm. They were not allowed to progress. 2/3 were allowed to have mortal lives, as many as it takes to grow, because we're created in the image of Source, of God.
Right.
Others are cast out. Lucifer came here and cheated his way into living beings on this planet.
Hence,
they're not extraterrestrials. Okay. They are ultra-terrestrials.
Yes, exactly.
Ultra-terrestrials. Okay.
And from time to time, we go to war with them and we kill almost all of them off. But some survive. The DNA has survived all the way from Cain until now. And 23andMe was originally the DARPA program, except we voluntarily hand in our DNA. And I got to tell you, my brother said we were blind. We kind of knew the primates, but when we started with human beings, we didn't know who was what. We didn't know what blonde hair was or blue eyes were, or what a Jew was, or what a Tibetan was, or a North American Indian. We had no clue until we started collecting the DNA. We said, this person comes from Ireland. We see that DNA. Oh, this person comes from South Africa. We see that DNA.
Oh, man.
Now they're able to tell. And what they're looking for, I thought for a long time, they're looking for Captain America. They're looking to build a super soldier.
Right.
Not true. They were looking for the dark strands of DNA. That's the army they're building.
That does not surprise me.
You know what's funny? I was gonna you know, that whatever that was, that genealogy thing, ancestry tree or whatever, I was gonna do that. Something in my spirit told me, no, don't sign up with that program. Don't give them any information. Do not have nothing to do with them.
That's the Syrian in you, because that happened before 1800 years ago on another world.
Yeah,
I've been flipping out about that genetic, the programs they have us paying for to send in our information for the longest. It's like one of my longest ongoing tirades. Is how ridiculous
You
that
really
is.
think they make money at $99 a sample? No, it's not designed to make money. It's designed to collect information.
Yes.
Man.
Yes.
Well, I guess my last question would be, do we know, or do we have any kind of a time frame of when the last time it was they were basically beaten back to almost nothing?
That's a good question. If you go back to 700 BC, this is right before the great spiritual awakening. Confucius and all these great prophets came around 600 BC. There was an enormous kill-off. I mean, there was enormous battles where hundreds of thousands of people died at a time, both on this continent and on other continents. We think maybe that was the second to the last great kill-off, or the great annihilation of this DNA. But the church got heavily involved after 300 AD, and this is 300 AD, and by 500 AD, they pretty much had it in their mind what they wanted to do. They wanted to kill off entire races on this planet. So by the time Cortez went to South America and discovered all the gold, Cortez said, there are too many of them. They outnumber us. There's no way we can fight them off. The church said, yes, there is. We're going to load your boats up with blankets from smallpox wards. In 2 years, 40 million people were killed. 2 years. The entire Aztec race was wiped out. 40 million people, 2 entire tribes of people were wiped out. Germ warfare.
Yes.
That's why they wanted to collect all that. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Drunk Pinata.
I suppose there's no connection possible for we're on YouTube, so I'll be careful. With the current sampling of the current thing that's going around the world, I'm sure there's nothing to do nefarious with that, with all the collection there.
I don't think the virus was ready for prime time, the made-for-TV virus, but the vaccine, that's entirely different.
What about the tests, you guys? You think the tests were, what do you think the role was those were playing in this whole mad conspiracy?
That was part of the marketing plan.
Yeah, I mean, they need to create the fear, to create the tests. I mean, they oversampled it to the point where they were just catching any little thing. And that's, and of course, conveniently, the day after the inauguration, we roll that back. Oops, sorry, whoopsie. That's not a mistake, obviously, but well, I think you got one more caller. I'll let you get to it. It's really interesting. I have to go back and listen to this again because it's. I've been so involved with a lot of the political stuff over the past few years that all this other stuff has kind of gone by the wayside for me. So it's really interesting to hear it, and actually, it's interesting how a lot of it ties back to with what we're dealing with the political stuff too. So it's very interesting. Thank you.
Interesting
Thank you
times.
for calling in.
Thank you, Drunk Pinata. Have a great evening.
We'll see you guys. Good night.
Yeah, I agree with what he said wholeheartedly.
By the way, in late summer of next year, the light from the red giant that took out that world in the Cygnus star formation is going to show up here.
Wait, say that again?
Everyone will see it. There was a red giant that took out a world I lived on 1,800 years ago. It's in the book. That red giant, the light from that event is going to
just be getting
up
here
next summer here. We will see it.
What's it going to do to us?
Nothing. It's just going to show up in the sky, last for a couple of months, but it's been in my book since 2007, and it's going to vindicate
proof that it happened.
Whew. All right. Well, I'm ready. Hey, after 2020 and now 2021, I think I'm ready for just about anything at this point. Welcome to the Conspiracy Couch, US and on.
Hello.
Hello, friend. You can unmute, or maybe I can ask you to unmute.
We're the Syrians. We're here to help.
Right.
Yeah, we're fierce too. Syrians are fierce. You know what I mean? We're loving, but we're fierce beings. We're about our business, whatever that mission business is.
We don't like stupidity.
No. US and on. Welcome to the couch.
Hey,
Hello.
how are you guys?
Good. How are you?
Just want to say loving the show.
Thank you.
Now I was going to back up the story earlier where you was talking about Lucifer beguiled Eve. That's very true. she was pregnant with Lucifer's child.
I didn't know
And then
that.
later on with Adam's child. So I can't believe you didn't heard that.
What book is that? Where is that? How come I never? Because I never read the whole. Because they said because you
It's
never
not-
read the whole
it's not
Bible.
just
That's why I
those
read the whole
directly in
Bible.
You have to do a lot of study, you know, different literatures.
It's in the Birth Trilogy too.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
I guess I need to
But
start studying
yeah, I
the
just want
Bible.
to call in and say that I had heard that before, and that he was definitely right on that.
I agree. I happen to agree. I'm glad that I can see the curiosity in Alara's face. She's gonna have a whole new
rabbit hole. Yeah.
Yes, ma'am.
Mhm. Yeah, you have no idea what you started. I'm gonna be on one for 2 weeks.
I can see
Foil,
it.
listen, Foil. Look, look. What do you think?
Yep, I'm
Yeah.
psyched. Brooks, I've been for months been trying to get it in piecemeal, but you came with it all, and it just I saw the light turn on in her eyes. She was like, "What?"
Well, I don't want everybody to get the wrong idea because I think largely the ETs are good.
Yeah,
I agree with you.
I think so
I
too.
think
Unlike her. Yeah.
Here are
No,
good.
I think the ones that are here interfering are an
Okay.
issue.
Right.
I'm okay. Yeah. Go ahead, US and
I
on.
agree too. I agree too. That's it. That's all I had to say, huh?
Oh,
think-
well, we love you.
You think the ones
Love
on
you guys
Earth?
too.
Hold on. You think the ones on Earth are bad, or you think? I think the majority of them are good.
No, not all. Not all. Not all. I think most of your interdimensional ones are.
Right.
But the ones who actually traveled here to help, no.
Right. But they're the ones that are hiding from us as the good guys because they're not supposed to interfere. Right, Brooks?
Absolutely.
Well, they can fight wars, but
Oh,
not
yeah.
against us because they could have wiped us out a long time ago.
Oh
but
yeah, they're clearly not
Right.
doing that. Yeah.
They're here to fight the ones that are trying to.
And not all the reptilians are bad either.
The thing is, if you read the Birth Trilogy, it takes 1,100 pages to explain this, but I'll give you the gist of it. They can't just kill us because we are eternal beings having a mortal experience.
Right.
Right.
I lived on a
Eternal
world
soul.
that was wiped out by natural disaster, wiped out. Every being on it was destroyed, vaporized.
Mm-hmm.
All the beings on that world got to reincarnate on other worlds.
Yeah.
Many of us chose this one because this is the greatest show in the
All right,
universe.
guys. I appreciate
All right,
you.
US and on. Thanks for calling in.
much love.
Have a great evening. It's good to
Hey.
hear your voice.
Bye.
All right,
See ya.
bye.
Bye.
Anyway, that's what frustrates them so much. They can't come here like the Grim Reaper and just wipe humanity out because we are these eternal beings. We're God-class beings. What they have to do is get us to choose wickedness. Once
Yes.
we choose hatred, we lose our soul. They win. And believe me, Lucifer wins all worlds this way.
Wow.
It's been done this way for billions of years.
Interesting.
That's why it says, if the days were not shortened, the entire creation would be lost.
Why? Because if we lived a long life, what would happen?
They would end up convincing all of us that to choose wickedness. Look at the planet now. Roughly half the world has chosen wickedness of their own free will and choice.
Oh, you mean through
It's
their
wild.
manipulation and media and all the things that they do? Yeah.
2 generations of them controlling our education system, and we have a generation that doesn't even know what America is.
Oh, it's crazy.
At all.
It's crazy. It's crazy. Like this stuff Brooks, and when I was a kid, thank you, our Cloaked Unseen World, GC, my released amazing video of something I can't read on the side. Thank you. What was I saying? What was I trying to say before I got
About
distracted?
education, about we lost the whole.
It was unthinkable to me when I was a kid that you would step on the American flag, that you would burn the American flag, that you would take down any one of our historical statues, that you would, what else was unthinkable to me? Oh, censorship was unthinkable to me.
Oh.
And it's so crazy because I'm not even that old, really. I mean, it's not like I'm on death's door and I'm watching it happen.
You're
It's
very
like-
old.
It's the craziest thing I've ever seen. Yeah.
Point is, there's the difference between education and propaganda. In education, we teach young people how to think. Propaganda teaches young people what to think.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Woo. Yep.
Well,
nailed it.
Woe unto them that see good as evil and evil as good, man. That's where we're at. It's wild.
All right. Well, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Well, the interesting thing about future views, which prophets give us, or seers or revelators, is that is one vision of a future. Because we are the beings who we are, we can choose another future. You know, America was not predicted in the scriptures. The richest, most powerful, most righteous nation in the history of the world. And there's not a syllable about us in the Bible.
You don't think that the feet of the iron and what is it, iron and clay, refers to
parables and myths of the Old Testament. I'm telling you that if America was predicted, it would have been clearly written in the scriptures. Everyone would be talking about it, just like they were talking about the coming of Jesus. The founding fathers already knew the future of walking inexorably down the path to Armageddon, and they chose another future. And the cabal has been trying to put us back on that timeline for 243 years.
That's crazy.
Oh, interesting. This has been an absolutely fascinating show.
Right. Great.
In more ways than one. Yeah, Brooks, you are such a wealth of knowledge. I could seriously talk to you for days. I've learned so much tonight.
I could seriously be on your program for days. I love this place. You guys are great.
Oh, you got to come back.
The couch is fun.
You got to come back.
Yeah,
right.
Definitely got to come back.
We get the most interesting callers. We have the chat loves it. Everybody's learning something. Like, this was great.
We have a wonderful crowd here. They're very good human beings, and they're very, very funny and smart. They're just wonderful.
Well, hopefully they're all readers, but I will tell you this. Here's the deal. If you go to my website and buy any of my books, I will give you the audio version for free. So if you're not a good reader, don't worry about it. I read it for you.
Okay, so can you tell everybody where they can? All of his links are in the description below, you guys, but could you tell everybody where they can find you and your work and anything you're going to be speaking at sometime soon or anything like that?
I'm going to be speaking at the Human Origins Conference on March 26th. That's coming up very quickly. You can buy tickets. There'll be 50 speakers there. You can view it from your bed if you want to. It's all virtual. All those links are at my website, brooksagnew.com, and just click on the upcoming events, and it's right there. Easy to do. All my books are there. All my podcasting is there. All my poetry, which is not really, it's my poetry, but I don't publish it. I just put it on my website for people's enjoyment. All that's there. And if you want to know more about me, you can come to my program. I'm on the same night you are. So
yep, Sundays Wednesdays and Sundays. He has the same schedule. Mm-hmm.
Awesome.
Yeah, so let's see. Let me couple of announcements real quick, and let me empty the chest on D Live.
Don't forget.
Yeah,
right.
They get super mad if you don't empty the chest. Yeah, man, I forgot yesterday. I felt it too. I was like, man, I forgot. Okay, so let me empty the chest here. Get that going. All right, guys, here comes your chest. I think no, I hit the wrong button. Did I hit the right button? Is it distributing? Oh man,
let me go look.
No, I hit submit something. I don't know what I did, but now I'm distributing rewards. I think there it goes. All right, it's distributing.
Did it go? Okay.
Yeah.
Now you got 100 lemons instead of 50.
Thank you, Big Hair Tsunami, for the diamond. Awesome sauce. Whoop 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 whoop. And Astro Kit 3N, thank you for the diamond, friend. Okay, so yeah, next show is Sunday, Space Force News Live. You know. That's gonna be the next show. Then Wednesday Night Live. Carly Q will be on, so that'll be lots of fun. It's always fun. Always fun having Carly on. And then we're gonna be doing Conspiracy Couch back to back this week and next week. So
double header.
Yep. Next week, Thursday night, same time, 10:30 p.m. Eastern, we will have Sam Tripoli on from Tinfoil Hatcast. We'll be doing the conspiracy master class. Yeah.
So right. Mountain Dream says, thank you for the super chat. Says, amazing ladies. Brooks is great.
Yeah.
We agree.
Brooks is amazing. Brooks got to come back or whatever, whether it's Conspiracy Couch or
Right.
Brooks and I just chatting it up on a Wednesday. Well, we both have shows on Wednesday. How's that going to work? We'll
Simulcast.
Right? Or we'll have to do...
simulcast. Ooh.
There we go. We'll make something happen for sure.
Right.
For sure.
Serious squared.
Yeah, so thank you to the mods.
We love you.
You guys are awesome. Yeah, we love you guys. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your evening. I know it's late.
Oh, thanks, Suter. Suter sent us some love too. Awesome show. Thanks, Laura and Foyle and Brooks. Thank you, Suterfug, for your super chat. Look at me doing some work.
And as far as the links, you guys, I see people, I think, asking for links on... I don't think there's any moderators over on Foxhole, so all the links are on my YouTube, you guys, in the description. They're always there. And if maybe one of the moderators from YouTube or D-Live, could you go over to Foxhole maybe and drop at least Brooks's... Hi, Average Patriot Joe. Good to see you. Drop Brooks's website.
I gotcha.
Yeah, thank you, Foyle. Great. So on that note, man, yeah, awesome show. Everybody have a wonderful evening, and we will see you Sunday for Space Force News.
We love you.
Good night, everybody.
Good night.